Chapter 3, An Accident? Hey Kay, can we take a pause at the next rest stop? I have to pee, like, incredibly so. Sure, I said, I have to go quite vehemently too, I have a plethora of pee. Nicely done, she said and laughed. Morgan loved it when I talked like that. My friend Morgan and I were burning up the road on Highway 35 just outside of Ames, Iowa, there on my 19th birthday, celebrating feeling free and young. I was in such an amazing mood, as that big, yellow, glowing ball in the sky began to fall, I figured a rest stop was just what we needed. I felt a poem coming on. 5 miles down the road, there was the sign for the turn off, and Morgan and I hooped it up inside the car, our bladder water barely contained. As soon as I put the old '77 Cadillac in park, Morgan was out the passenger door and running. I laughed, grabbed my makeup case, notebook and pen and filed out, standing slowly upright. I didn't think I could run, I had to go so bad. I slowly made my way to the restroom and a squirrel ran out of somewhere and crossed right in front of me, pausing for a moment like he knew what my inward pointing knees meant and was getting a chuckle from making me wait an extra second or two. Morgan and I had decided to just take a week off of work each, and go driving to nowhere in particular. It was my first big trip alone like this, and her second. I felt I needed to get out and see more of the world, so I could get some fresh ideas for my poetry. After our little sojourn to relieve ourselves, I sat on a picnic bench and began letting go of my thoughts, my notebook on my lap. Morgan grabbed a soda from the vending machine and was stretching her legs in the empty parking lot. I was admiring the rich green grass, so vibrant and dancing in the slight wind, and then I noticed the life-giver's sunful rays as they entwined and glinted upon the grass. They hinted their irradiation, for in school I was, right there, rearranging normal syntax into a better semblance of my mind, while being under the influence of nature, a nature that I was becoming ever mindful of as being just like me. Nature is I, and thus there is no I, nor any nature. So, what are we? There is no we either, in fact, there are none of these words in our description. The picnic bench disappeared then, I know not whence it traveled here or where it was now upon its leaving. I was just suddenly barefoot, and feeling multiple pages and unwritten history speak through me. Omicron lambda iota omicron chi alpha sigma epsilon pi tau sigma eta tau omicron upsilon, kappa alpha iota mu omega eta eta mu rho alpha mu epsilon tau rho alpha pi epsilon sigma epsilon nu chi tau alpha, epsilon mu pi nu omicron nu tau alpha pi rho sigma iota nu omicron lambda mu pi epsilon iota mu sigma epsilon nu alpha kappa lambda omicron. Pi omicron upsilon sigma chi eta mu alpha tau zeta omicron upsilon nu sigma tau omicron mu alpha lambda alpha kappa chi omicron rho tau rho iota. My Greek poet sisters and brothers. The sun missed its falling and yet the day turned to night, inspiring green glows amidst a circle forming in the soft grass. Je me dirigis vers le cercle, leave sur les brins d'herbe, et porte nous en avance jamais vraiment touché. Mes mains libres à mes côtés, je me suis senti le bonheur de l'énergie mystique, le tir à travers mes doigts. My French poet sisters and brothers. I walked to the circle, lifted on blades of grass, and yet we never really touched. My hands loose at my sides, I felt the bliss of mystical energy, shooting through my fingertips. My Indian poet sisters and brothers. Apsaras caressed me through their precise iambic dewpoints, set out in the air to enrapture and adore. Misideti al centro del cerchio, el universo appariva comuna, spiccio azzurro galleggiant. My Italian poet sisters and brothers. I sat down in the middle of the circle, and the universe appeared as a floating, bluish mirror. I looked back to where Morgan had been, but she was gone. Instead, all around me were stars, and the only thing in my view other than stars was the mirror. But, when I got close to the mirror, with its strange, bluish glow, and I looked directly at it, the only reflection that came back to me was that of more stars. That's when I realized what being a poetess meant. We are one with the universe and we accept it. My Japanese poet sisters and brothers. We are immaculate, with calloused hands and quivering thoughts that send our spines open to the universe. Nuestros ojos no ven, sino más bien, son únicamente testigos de lo que nuestras mentes les dicen lo que deberían de ver. My Spanish sisters and brothers. Our eyes do not see, but rather, they witness only that which our minds tell them that they ought to. Then, it all came clear, like an arenaceous eye being sponged clean for the first included last time. Like a lucidity that knows its origins in the filth, I broke free and saw there never had been any bonds at all. All became one. I was the dew, the grass, the apsaras. I was the bench that has no permanent destination. I was of every ethnicity and one with all my sisters and brothers around this spheroid we call Earth. I was the inspiring green glow, and indeed, I was the circle, the brio of it all. As a poetess, I document the silence between all things, and this silence is where all poets live. We see the empty formations between letters that brings harmony to their more rigid and easily seen brethren. And, we know that this silence, or emptiness, is in every aspect of our lives. The words are us, and we are the words. The rhythms of the poems are just further aspects of our psyches, and thus, our universes. Multidimensional beings we are, and whether alive or dead, it makes no difference. For illusion takes the eyes away from the truth, and so, the eyes set the illusion. To be willingly blind is wisdom that you can't see, therefore, it is truest wisdom. The mirror in front of me turned sideways and disappeared then, vanishing as might a rocket towards the sky. It set high above, turned its reflection down toward me, and then spread out. I saw the entire night sky in its impression, where every person on the planet was a star in the great unknown. Star people we all are, one and all. Slowly, everything from earlier came back into view, the rest stop, restrooms, and picnic bench. I became aware that Morgan was shaking my shoulder. "Hey, you seemed really deep in thought there." "Thinking of a poem?" she asked. I just lay down on my back, looking at the stars, too exhausted to speak. So, Morgan lay down beside me and followed along. We lay like that for several minutes, and then I said, "I guess we should get going again, huh?" Morgan agreed, so we headed back to the car. I asked her to drive because I still felt a bit out of sorts. My brain was seeing things like flashes of light and ghostly images that my eyes weren't. I knew this because, when I closed my eyes, the images were still there. As we drove down the road, the visions intensified. All around me the road was disappearing, and on either side of the highway were rows upon rows of gods and goddesses. There must have been millions of them. In my right hand were breadcrumbs, and they were dropping through my fingers onto the floor of the car and then exiting out onto the road. I looked over at Morgan and she seemed to notice none of this, and so I began to get frightened. But, just as I was about to say something to her, a red and pulsating thing, up far ahead, caught my eye. I squinted as it slowly drew near. "What is that?" I wondered. My hand still was doling out breadcrumbs, I could feel them. Nearer and nearer drew the thing up ahead, faster and faster it approached, and then, to my horror, it appeared to be a big, red, fleshy heart, maybe 3 stories tall. It was almost upon us and I feared it would kill anything it rammed into, so I turned to shout at Morgan, "Watch out." But it was too late. The snap of my seatbelt was so precise and swift that I didn't feel it, and going through the windshield of the car was something that didn't hurt. I hurtled into the heart of the impactor, this heart that was no longer fleshy, but now hardened, cerise steel that was being crunched in slow motion as I watched while in flight. The sounds were non-existent, having been censored by life as too harsh. I continued flying over the heart. It had a long back end, and I landed, punishing my head into the dirt of the tall prairie grass of Ames. Now, the sounds came alive, suddenly and monstrously. Screeching tires and horns blaring, and something was again coming my way. I had one good eye, something was stuck in the other, but I couldn't move much. I barely lifted my head and saw a car heading towards me through the grass. I had no ability to escape. The car's driver's side tires shot over my chest, and its other tires ran over my feet. I was told later that pages from my journal were flying down all over the accident scene. Poetry, fluttering down like a loose bouquet of angels, as if they were trying to offer comfort the best they could to everyone involved with the accident. However, some of the screams that sounded that bestial day would never stop, and no amount of poetry could assuage the pain and guilt. The loss had to be accepted. There was no other way.